This conference will now be recorded.
Hey everybody, Dr. Doug Smith here. It's Tuesday, 1 o'clock, so it is time for our Monday through Thursday 1 o'clock podcast. This is where you will hear the science about what really happened with the opioid crisis. If I give you my opinion, I'll tell you, hey, that's my opinion. But for the most part, what we're presenting here is the science. And that's what people need to know because they have not been given the science. What the psychiatrist told you, what the addiction specialist told you, what the public health expert told you, no, that's not the science. So come here and you can hear the science. Speaking of science, look at the screen in front of you, and take a look at that. This is an extremely important image. Deaths attributable to cardiovascular disease, United States, 1900 to 2019. So notice we stopped at 2019 in presenting our data. Okay, and the reason that we did this is so that we don't pull in any of the COVID data. COVID started March of 2020. So by stopping in December of 2019, there's no COVID in this data. And what I want you to look at is there on the far right. You see that cardiovascular deaths have been going down really since late 1960s, 1970s. Okay, cardiovascular deaths have been going down. The cardiologists have been doing their job. Then all of a sudden, about the time the opioid crisis started, there in 2010 or so, you see, boom, all of a sudden there is a sharp upward shift in the number of cardiovascular deaths. Now remember, we're only looking at deaths here. This isn't the people that had heart attacks. These are people that died from heart attacks. Okay, and if you get your ruler and your pen, and you see that these are deaths in thousands, okay, and you start extrapolating the numbers. If you take that line out to today, you're looking at over 3 million deaths. Okay, and we believe those are people that died simply from adrenaline toxicity, what we call catecholamine toxicity. And so anyone who wants to say to you that opioid withdrawal is not dangerous, is not deadly, they don't know what they're talking about. And they're doing a lot of damage by running around not knowing what they're talking about, but still talking. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here for the next few days is the scientific evidence supporting buprenorphine as an antidote for the symptoms of the opioid-induced genotoxicity. You can see it right there on top of your screen. I just read it off screen. Okay, scientific evidence, that means, that's the type of evidence we use. Scientific evidence supporting, so this is scientific evidence that tells us buprenorphine is a good antidote for the symptoms that people get when they get sick. When they get sick, that's the opioid-induced genotoxicity. Genotoxicity is a poisoning to the DNA. Opioid-induced genotoxicity is therefore a poisoning to the DNA because of the opioids. And the symptoms people get when they try to stop taking the opioids, when they attempt opioid abstinence, and they get what we now recognize as the signature disease. They lose control of their organ systems. They lose control of their internal organs. They lose control of the day-to-day functions of their body. Okay, stop and think about what you experienced in opioid withdrawal. Okay, your eyes watered, your nose ran, you were pouring sweat, your pupils were dilated, your hair was standing on end. Okay, you had abdominal cramps, you had diarrhea. Okay, your heart was pounding, you felt agitated, you felt restless. That is a loss of control of the internal organs. Okay, it turns out, I guess, the opioid receptor, this is my opinion, the opioid receptor is in charge of switching back and forth between the two big branches that control the organs in the body. The organs in the body are controlled by something called the autonomic nervous system. It's not called the automatic nervous system. It kind of sounds the same. Autonomic nervous system. Okay, right now sitting there, you're not thinking about how many heartbeats per minute or how many breaths per minute. There's a part of your nervous system that's taking care of that. And that part of the nervous system is called the autonomic nervous system. It's divided into two branches: the sympathetic, which we like to call the fight or flight system, and the parasympathetic, which we like to call the rest and digest. So really, you got two big systems: either fight or flight, rest and digest, and the opioid receptor is the switch between the two. Well, if you genetically damage that opioid receptor, it's not going to do a very good job of maintaining balance between the two systems, and that's exactly what happens. What we believe happens in when people get sick. when they attempt opioid abstinence and they get sick, what has been called opioid withdrawal, is if you look closely, that's both systems are having trouble. Okay, on the rest and digest side, well, that's why the eyes water, the nose runs. Okay, that when you sleep at night, you know, your body keeps your eyes moist and your nose moist. That's why you wake up in the morning with and say the Sandman's come to see you. And then the yawning that goes along with that. And then the rest and digest. The digest would be the abdominal cramps and the diarrhea. Things are just out of control. Okay, the fight or flight. Well, that's the heart pounding and rapid. The pouring sweat, the hair standing on end. The hair standing on end is kind of a residual reflex left over from, animals. You scare a cat, the hair stands on end. It doesn't have much use in humans. It's just a remnant reflex. But we see it when our people get sick. And what you wouldn't know is one of the organs you lose control of is the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are small little almond-shaped glands, sit on top of your kidneys, tucked under your rib cage. You never know they were there. We've all know what adrenaline feels like. You get that sudden surge of adrenaline. Blue light goes off in the rearview mirror. We all get that surge of adrenaline. Okay, and a few minutes later, it's gone. Okay, adrenaline is a very powerful organic molecule, and the body's got to keep very close control on the adrenaline. That's why that organ is located, in the middle of your body, tucked under your rib cage, where it's not exposed to trauma. But when you lose control of your organs, you lose control of your adrenal gland. And the problem is that adrenal gland, that adrenaline can kill you. Okay, you lose control of your sweat glands, that's uncomfortable. You lose control of your bowels, that's distressing. You lose control of your adrenal gland, and that thing will kill you. There is enough adrenaline in your body to kill you. And it will kill you with a heart attack or a stroke, what's called a cardiovascular death. Now, look at the screen again, folks. Deaths attributable to cardiovascular disease, U.S. 1900 to 2019. Look on the far right. Look how that you get that sudden upward shift. Folks, those are people that died. Those are people that died from a heart attack, mostly from adrenaline toxicity. That's what we believe that is. Otherwise, explain it to me. There's no other explanation. Look at that, folks. 3 million people dead, while the psychiatrists, the addiction specialists, the public health specialists, CDC, everybody's telling you opioid withdrawal is uncomfortable and won't kill you. Really? Then explain this graph to me. Now, we know the adrenaline toxicity is taking place, and we're going to go through that in detail. Okay, I'm not going to run over time today. Okay, but I wanted to start with that graphic today. So we're going to hold here today. Remember to like and subscribe to us. Post us on your social media. Post us on everybody else's social media. We're getting ready to roll out the DNA test. Alex is gonna help get the website ready. We're gonna roll that thing out, and we're not stopping. We're taking this thing all the way to Washington. We're not stopping. It's horrible. Look at that graph in front of you. 3 million dead, and they were it's just those are 3 million people who were not supposed to die of a heart attack. It's not that they died earlier of a heart attack. They weren't going to have a heart attack. They were killed by their own bodies. It's just awful. It's just horrible. All right. My name's Dr. Doug Smith. We'll hold here today, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.